Okay, so CINDE, your organization, I think, promotes investment in Costa Rica in general terms, but I know that you recently attended the Semicon West event, so I guess that's an area of interest to you, and just be good to understand how that went. You went there to San Francisco. How did the event go for you?
Absolutely. So CINDE, as you mentioned, is a Costa Rica private nonprofit organization that for the last 40 years has been promoting foreign direct investment into Costa Rica in the strategic sectors of medical devices, advanced manufacturing, services. And now we see the incredible opportunity and inflection point of semiconductors. So as you mentioned, we recently attended the Semicon West event, which brings together the diverse global electronic supply chain, right, to talk about these semiconductor ecosystems greatest opportunities, right? So it's about, equipment, materials, software devices. In case of our participation, I think we exceeded our expectations. I think the intent was to position Costa Rica, right, as a attractive destination given its track record in the semiconductor space, and we can talk more about that. But to position Costa Rica and understand the opportunities, the different opportunities. So we participated with both booth, right, located and promoting Costa Rica, and then we did walk the show and attended different meetings with different companies. We also were fortunate to come with different actors of the private sector, different players of the ecosystem, the investment ecosystem. So it kind of strengthens the position of Costa Rica as a, place that is business friendly and easy to land opportunities. So we had a very good turnout in terms of companies we connected with, consultants we aligned with, attended different elements in terms of talent. So in all, it was even though Costa Rica is not new in the semiconductor stage, actually, in my case, I even worked 25 years at Intel before coming to CINDE, and the Intel assembly and test factory has been in Costa Rica for more than 26, 27 years. The, you know, the this is an inflection point for the industry, so we are doubling the reach out to position Costa Rica as the nearshore, friendshore location aligned to the CHIPS Act opportunity as well. So again, very, very productive visit in our case.
Yeah, and as you say, you were obviously promoting the country as an ideal destination for the semiconductor industry, and I know part of that is the fact that you've been selected as a strategic US CHIPS Act partner. So if you
Absolutely.
can just explain sort of, if you can, how that came about and what that gives you as a sort of advantage over somebody who
So
isn't.
yes, Costa Rica is one of the three strategic allies of the United States in the American to strengthen that supply chain ecosystem in the Americas. As more the United States wants to invest right in having the semiconductors manufacturing in the United States and all the ITSI funds and CHIPS Act. Other actors in the Americas, Costa Rica, Mexico, and Panama, were selected as its partners. So we're receiving additional support to strengthen our talent development, our business ecosystem. So there's the Department of States and others are, partnering heavily with different academia and other institutions to strengthen the positioning. So I think that gives us a lot of, a vote of confidence from the United States of the, preferred location, right, and the strategy that Costa Rica plays in this great opportunity.
Yeah, and in terms of you mentioned in the first answer, I think, about existing semiconductor industry in the country. Perhaps you can just tell us what that is for those that don't know. What's the
Absolutely.
existing
So
presence?
Costa Rica has more. It's a has a very strong track record in the manufacturing as a destination for advanced manufacturing. We have more than 20 companies linked to the already established in Costa Rica, more than 20 companies linked to the semiconductor ecosystem, and another more than 20 that are related, that are suppliers or support the ecosystem. I think the biggest example is the Intel assembly and test factory that has been established in Costa Rica for more than 27 years. And then we have companies in the design stage, and we have suppliers from component assembly, molding, finishing, tooling, logistics, services. And in addition to the particular companies in the semiconductor space, I think, again, Costa Rica has proven kind of that track record of, and we can talk about the value proposition, but in the medical devices and the service. So a very good expertise in terms of attracting, high value added knowledge intensive services. And then, not just ramping them, but developing the different companies so that they establish long-term presence and continue growing and evolving. So we see, again, these huge opportunities. We see it as a golden opportunity for Costa Rica, right? We see a lot of more leading edge fabs being built in the United States. So we'll clearly see that they will need more assembly and test services, right? Because I think as we talk to some of the companies, even in the Semicon, we see kind of that as the boundary, now the bottleneck, right? A lot of the fab capacity being built, but what about, right? The next level, the other kind of backend processes from assembly and test. So we believe that there's a huge opportunity. We know Costa Rica does not compete in the fab and foundry space. We see ourselves more in the assembly test and even in the design elements up front, as more kind of custom ASICs are required for the different companies.
Yeah, and I was going to go on to that. I mean, what's the objective or the anticipated potential of the semiconductor industry? And you've referenced, things like microchip design, assembly, packaging, testing. So those are the areas you're going to focus
Those are
on.
the areas. So we clearly know, again, not in the foundry space. It's not foundry space. We know that's not the place we contribute. So we see, as you mentioned, in the early kind of the design space, assembly, test, packaging, and even in the logistics kind of supply chains, right? As we connect with other actors of the ecosystem, a huge opportunity there.
Yeah, and in terms and the idea is to attract sort of companies from outside Costa Rica to come and base there, or are you trying to grow a sort of indigenous industry as well? Just how you see the
we see it more as attracting either US, European or Asian companies that required a French or nearshore location to support the US market primarily, but Costa Rica not limited to supporting US. We also, export to the world. So again, in the areas of design, assembly, test, packaging, right, and other collateral elements, the semiconductor industry being so big, but we see kind of that opportunity, particularly in those locations. So that's where we're targeting our attraction efforts in different companies and kind of segmenting, and even within those areas that are very broad, going deep into what are the specific opportunities that we see.
Yeah, and I mean, and the semiconductor industry globally has a number of, clearly there's a huge opportunity. Everyone's talking about this 1 trillion industry by 2030 or so, but there are obviously a number of challenges as well. And I'm just wondering how you see Costa Rica helping people overcome that. And maybe the first one, the skills, the workforce shortage is big news. So how can Costa Rica help that?
Absolutely. So I think I would start maybe on how do we see Costa Rica, as you mentioned, what Costa Rica's value proposition is to help in this great opportunity. I think, as you mentioned, the first and foremost is talent, right? For more than 25 years, Costa Rica has really been developing a very highly skilled talent pool, very highly specialized, that, as mentioned, has supported Inter and other semiconductor companies, but as mentioned, other advanced manufacturing services ecosystem. So it's a talent that is used to taking on even more sophisticated processes and continuously learning and adapting. And again, that I think, and if you talk to any investor, they would say kind of Costa Rica's number one differentiator is the quality of its workforce, right? The adaptability, the innovation, the depth, right? And again, it's not a matter of chance. It's a matter of choice. And, the country and the different actors of the ecosystem have actively invested in development and continue actively, adapting the workforce from technical high schools, the National Learning Institute, private and public universities. So it's a very collaborative, I would say, a differentiator there. It's a very collaborative ecosystem where the local academia and even the industries already established work together. And actually, a recent example is, the country and to face the semiconductor opportunity, partnering academia and industry, the company establishes what do we have and what do we need. So doing a gap analysis of the different skills and very deep for semiconductor, right? Because we have a lot of engineering degrees and others, but really adapting to what is needed for the semiconductor. A very, very clear mapping was done, and now working again with some of the support from the ITSI funds and others and the different actors of the ecosystem to adjust the degrees and the curriculum and to continue attracting right talent. I would say another thing is sometimes they say that in the US, early careers in the semi space are attractive, right? Costa Rica, it's very attractive. Folks they see this as the, high-end jobs, very well-paying jobs where folks can continue learning and advancing and contributing. So it's a very attractive industry for talent, right? And more folks understand that, STEAM related jobs are, are of high, high return, right, for you as a professional. So very, I'd say talent is the number one, I would say, even area of opportunity and area of strength, right, for the country. And we know we have a very strong starting point, but we know we need to do more. So I think that's your point in terms of both sides, the biggest challenge, which is not unique to Costa Rica. We know that the biggest, even in the United States, even from the folks that are building the fabs, right, it's one of the big challenges. So, but we know that is an absolutely big area of focus, and we're taking it as such and contributing actively as an organization with different actors in the ecosystem. I would say in our case, the other value proposition differentiator is the location, right? Absolutely locating in the Americas, access to the United States and others through free trade zone agreements. The business environment is very, welcoming. There's a lot of actors already very experienced on how to deal with these multinational companies. The free trade zone regime that Costa Rica offers, the tax incentives that it offers. And as you mentioned, I think one of that, puts us up above the rest, right, is that being that strategic ally for the United States, right, in the CHIPS Act and in CIFON. So it's a very comprehensive value proposition that the country has been shaping and adjusting through time, because it's been a journey, right? Again, it's not that, hey, now we're going to play here, but we've continuously evolved. Now, knowing that the other sectors in the economy, right, as mentioned, medical devices or other, are extremely important, and we continue supporting those as well. And we interestingly see that as we make some of the investments and in an accelerated pace for semiconductors, the country, they could benefit, right? The other, it will be win-win for the other sectors of the industry.
Yeah, no, that's great. So, I mean, if we call that skills, that's at one S, and I always say there's the three S's in the industry: there's skills, there's sustainability, and the supply chain, I guess. So, just again, maybe any thoughts you've got as to how Costa Rica is, well positioned in terms
absolutely.
of
And in terms of
sustainability and
sustainability, I would say, I think now it's up to 95, 97%, but Costa Rica, you plug your electricity in Costa Rica and it's, it's green, right? It's hydroelectric power. So I think from a sustainability perspective, and Costa Rica is world renowned for all its efforts in sustainability, we're absolutely. And then all the supply chain elements as well, very active players in the industry. And then we have, connection as well through direct flights and others, and the ports and connection, but also through Panama, which is a partner in the supply chain elements as well. And again, that you mentioned earlier question on kind of the indigenous, right? And how we are also in this effort, obviously, I think at first is how do we attract, right, some of the companies, but I think as a country, we see that opportunity as well to develop, right, some local suppliers that can support some of these companies. And we have some highlights in terms of the other industries and how they've been able to partner, right, and become suppliers of these semiconductor, in the case of semiconductor, but particularly medical devices. And we see that opportunity as well to have those development of companies well as aligned to the industry.
And just I think you already touched on it, but just to re-emphasize, if you like, the proposition from Costa Rica to the semiconductor industry is yourself, your own organization, which is obviously there to help folks with investment. I think, is it BAC or back, you've got the largest Costa Rican bank who's sort of there, and also you mentioned the Innova Park, the free trade. So can you just perhaps summarize, if you like, that totality of that package, how sort
absolutely. So as I mentioned, I think as the Costa Rican foreign direct investment has grown through the years, it's been because there's a lot of partners, right, that have come together to make it easy for companies to land in Costa Rica and establish. So we attended Semicon West in partnership with PAC, which is the largest private bank in the country, Innova Park as well, which is a new free trade zone park that is establishment, and other different actors from the legal services, accounting suppliers, providers of different supplies or indirect materials to the company. So there's a lot of interest from the current providers that are in the country, and they see this opportunity as well to to accelerate the landing, right? To make it easy for companies, right, that they see that it's we know what we're doing and we can help make it easier for companies to establish in Costa Rica. Absolutely, as you say.
Yeah, and in terms of I suppose any objectives you set, or just how successful you would hope to be, I mean, do you think you'll be able to potentially take on at the moment? Obviously, the Asian countries, a lot of those are doing a lot of the work. Do you think over time, bearing in mind what you said, I think at the start about nearshoring or onshoring, reshoring, whatever you want to call it, do you think? I suppose what I'm asking in simple terms is how big do you think this opportunity is from where the industry is now to where you think it might be
See,
along this road to 2030, I suppose. What
absolutely. Yes. And again, I think you're the expert, right, on that, 7% year-over-year growth of the semi industry. So we haven't, I would say we haven't specifically defined, what percentage of that, but anything that we take, I think it's huge, right? These are huge, absolutely numbers. And we've seen that as an organization, we're defining, and as a country, right, what's the right size and how do we evolve through time. As you mentioned, some of the big enterprises are already there. We see an opportunity maybe in the medium, small, medium type, tier two suppliers, maybe first to start and then building from there. And then you were asking earlier in terms of supply chain, right? So we see right there Costa Rica differentiator in terms of the proximity to markets, the free trade zone agreements, right? Infrastructure and development, the workforce, right? And the one thing we haven't talked about, which we take for granted, but is the kind of the stable political environment, which kind of through time, right? I think that's what has enabled a lot of these companies to start as well.
Okay, I mean, it's been great to chat and understand what's going on there. And maybe, I don't know, in 6 months or a bit longer, we can have another conversation, see how it's going.
Absolutely.
But at least for now, Marianella, I really appreciate your time. So thank you very
No,
much.
thank you so much. We know it's a journey, and we're taking the right steps to make sure Costa Rica is absolutely well positioned in this inflection point, right? And to make sure it's positioned appropriately, and then the right conditions continue being there to be business friendly, welcoming, and make the landing. We know how critical any of these operations are, that they cannot take any blip, so that the country is absolutely ready and continues delivering to its current value proposition and expanding it as we go.